Research tells us that olives have been around for at least 6,000 years. In fact, the Greek poet Homer called olive oil liquid gold. And if you're like me, you've probably spent a few sleepless nights contemplating the olive. I'm Donna Vesey, your adventurista, and on this edition of Hitting the Road, we're going to learn more about the myriad uses of this noble fruit and see that olives are not just for martinis anymore.
I'm hitting the road again, got adventure crawling under my skin, going places that I've never been. I'm hitting the road, I'm hitting the road again. Gonna take along all of my friends, living life like it's just no end. I'm hitting the road, feeling better since I don't know when. I'm hitting the road.
On this episode of Hitting the Road, we begin our journey in Queen Creek, Arizona, where we'll squeeze the most out of an olive harvest. From there, we'll press on to the Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale, Arizona, and get the skinny on the health benefits of this extraordinary and versatile fruit. Finally, we'll slide on into Dillon, Colorado, where an extraordinary chef will attempt to teach me how to flip and flame. So keep those fire extinguishers handy, because we're about to learn what the smoke point is. The olive branch has always been considered a symbol of peace, and olives have been cultivated for more than 6,000 years. Today, olive oil is used in everything from food to beauty products. We hit the road to Queen Creek, Arizona to see firsthand the technique of processing this liquid gold. Brenda and Perry Rea, owners of the Queen Creek Olive Mill, left Detroit and a career in the automotive industry to grow olives in the hot Arizona desert. First of all, tell me, what made you decide to grow olives?
It was really a change of lifestyle for us. I came from the automotive industry, a very big business that my father had started, and I took it over, and it got to the point where the automotive industry kind of enveloped our lives, and I was looking for a change of lifestyle. To make a long story short, we went back to Detroit, and we were sitting around, and my wife kind of said to me, looked at me straight in the eye and said, over a couple glasses of wine, said, why don't we make extra virgin olive oil in Arizona? So that's kind of how it all began. In the technical side of making olive oil with the machinery and things, there's kind of second nature to me because, the engineering side of the automotive industry was kind of what I loved. So, and I tease people, I went from motor oil to olive oil. So that's good. We did an olive oil sommelier course. And there were only 20 of us, and all from around the world. For me, it kind of opened my eyes in terms of the different sensory attributes that go into extra virgin olive oil and what to look for in a good olive oil. A general rule is that if you use good fruit, it will give you great oil. So, the whole objective of making good extra virgin olive oil starts in the grove.
So walk me through the process of growing the trees from the beginning, because when you bought this land, there were no olive trees?
No olive trees.
How long did it take to get olive trees this big?
It takes about 3 years before you start seeing some olives here in Arizona. Now in California, a little different because the growing season isn't as long. So from the time that you plant an olive tree to the time that you begin to harvest is about 3 years, but generally up until the 5th to 6th year is when you're really going to start getting a lot of olives. The important part is making sure that you harvest the olives at their prime time. So, you want your olives to be somewhat right in the middle of ripeness. Green with a little flecks of purple in it to get very good quality extra virgin olive oil. The important part of processing the olives is making sure that when you harvest and get them into the machine immediately so that you get fresh olives, give you fresh oil. And that's what I keep telling everybody. And that's how you get good extra virgin olive oil.
How many gallons of olive oil do you manufacture a year?
We make, last year we did about 6,000 gallons.
A mature olive tree can produce anywhere from 20 to 80 pounds of olives per harvest. It takes 1 ton of olives to yield about 35 gallons of oil. So let's see, a little quick math tells us that you can get between 3 and 10 half-liter bottles of oil out of a single tree. Once the olives are harvested, they're brought in huge crates and they don't go anywhere until they've been thoroughly cleaned. The first step is defoliation and destemming. This is where all the foreign matter like leaves and twigs are removed by air, which is blown onto screens which shift and vibrate the olive. Olives are then dumped into a wash basin where they are vigorously shaken by bubbling air and water. And once that's done, they're transferred to the next step via an auger. The olives move through a hammer mill where everything including the pit and the meat of the olive are crushed and pulverized into a thick paste. This process is called malaxation.
The oil molecules will start to adhere to each other. And it's kind of like the oil molecules are adhering to each other, but also the water molecules are also adhering to each other during that process. So we're starting to get separation.
After that, it's on to the centrifuge for separation. Once the separation has occurred, the oil and a little bit of the water go one way, and the waste, which they call pumice, goes another.
That pumice, by the way, we use that a number of different ways on the farm. We'll compost it, put it back in our fields once it's composted fully. Or last year, we actually used all of our pumice to just put on our roads to keep our dust down.
The oil is then transferred into stainless steel holding tanks that are made especially for the storage of extra virgin olive oil. Olives are typically harvested between September and November. At the height of the harvest, the folks at Queen Creek Olive Mill can process up to 2.5 tons of olives per hour. Fresh olive oil right out of the tap is extraordinary. The flavors are vibrant and intense. Next up, Scottsdale, Arizona. The Mayo Clinic is a worldwide leader in medical care research and education. I learned more about the health benefits of olive oil from Kathy Dymeke, a registered dietitian at the Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale, Arizona.
And what do you do here at the Mayo Clinic?
At Mayo Clinic Scottsdale, I'm a part of the endocrinology department, and within that department, I'm an outpatient dietitian. My job is to help them to make the best food choices they can, absolutely.
Now, how does olive oil fit into a good, healthy diet?
So a lot of what we do is, in addition to just weight management, we also have consults with folks who need to approach their diet from a more heart-healthy perspective. We promote the Mediterranean diet a lot, and a big part of that, of course, is olive oil. One of the best things that you can do to improve the fat profile in your diet is to switch from a saturated fat to a unsaturated fat. And olive oil is in that category. I think the one thing to keep in mind, as with any fat in our diet, it's still a calorie-dense product. So while it's full of nutrients, and we love that, still measure it out. Okay, so it's, a tablespoon of any of these fats is roughly 100, 120 calories. Again, very heart healthy. It's a good fat, and that's what we want you to move towards. But watch the amounts. That's one of the main things we do in terms of recommending a heart-healthy diet, is to look at areas where they might be using saturated fats and identifying ways that they can incorporate an unsaturated fat, and olive oil fits right into that. There is a lot of research that supports eating or consuming a heart-healthy diet or a more plant-based diet, which this olive oil is a plant-based oil, that will reduce your cholesterol and hopefully reverse some of that heart disease.
So how about just eating olives? Are they good for you to eat just like that?
Yeah, the only caution I would have with olives is if they're very salty. So sometimes they can be high in sodium. So if somebody has hypertension, then you just want to be mindful of that.
Okay.
The temptation is to just take your oils and pour them in the pan. You can do that, but I would say first of all, measure it so you know what it looks like.
Olive oil is loaded with antioxidants and vitamins. The main type of fat contained in olive oil is called monounsaturated fatty acids, also known as MUFAs. MUFAs are actually considered a healthy dietary fat. Olive oil's health benefits are so numerous that it's considered a functional food. Functional foods are those that have health benefits beyond just nutrition. Studies have shown that extra virgin olive oil can help reduce the risk factors of coronary heart disease by helping to lower blood pressure and maintain a healthy cholesterol level. On top of all of that, it can even counter the effects of aging. I could go on and on about all the other health benefits of this amazing oil, but suffice it to say that it's really, really good for you. As with all things, moderation is the key, but having as little as 2 tablespoons of olive oil a day will allow you to reap the benefits of this amazing food.
So we do promote the Mediterranean diet here, and when they first studied this particular population, they were somewhat surprised that they ate fat. They had fat in their diet, yet their cholesterol levels were very good, very positive. So to really be successful in implementing the Mediterranean diet, you want to choose those great superfoods that are featured in the diet, but also watch the portions, and you'll be really successful in meeting your health goals. As a registered dietitian nutritionist, we often recommend the Mediterranean diet to our patients, and one big part of that is switching from a saturated fat to an unsaturated fat, such as olive oil.
Next up, Colorado Mountain College Culinary Institute in Breckenridge, Colorado. For a girl who hasn't spent a lot of her time in a kitchen, Kevin Clark, Director of Culinary Education, shows me just how easy and yummy cooking with olive oil can be.
So for today's menu, we came up with the idea that since you can do so many different things with olive oils, it's not just something you can cook with. It can be a condiment all on its own. I decided we could do really a 3-course tasting menu using 3 very different flavors of olive oil to represent 3 separate dishes. When you called and said, okay, let's cook with olive oil. For me, that's kind of like, let's cook with wine. It's like, well, okay, what do you want to cook? What type of wine? What type of dish? What type of region do you want to do? So for doing a dessert-based item, wanting to get an olive oil that's particularly fruity. You're going to be able to taste it inside the pistachio cake that we're making. And so this is a Southern Italian style extra virgin olive oil. So we should really set off to flavor the pistachios and the nuts with all the fruity flavors that are actually in the oil itself. So what we're going to do next is we melt the olive oil and the butter together. Then we're going to take our eggs and our sugar and we're going to whip those up to a foam.
Okay.
And then the butter and the oil goes into the egg, and then we fold that whole mixture into the nuts.
Okay.
We're going to have it come up to a nice, bright, light yellow foam. So what we look for is the eggs are going to start to foam.
Okay.
They're going to raise up on the side of the bowl, and then just when they start to deflate, that's when we know that's right where we want them. We need to zest a lemon. Lay it flat over the bowl, and hold it with your hand and just rub this way.
Okay.
And we're going to get as much zest off that lemon as we can. And rock your fingertips up just a little bit. There we go.
Like that?
Yep. Just like that. Got a strainer set up so we don't get the seeds in there. So we've gotten to the next part of doing the batter, so we need to mix the rest of our liquid ingredients. This is our fresh lemon juice. This is now melted extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of butter.
So just do it?
Go ahead. Yep. One of the reasons I like cooking with olive oil is there's so many wonderful flavor variations and the health benefits of olive oil. When we're trying to pick a specific flavor profile, it matches so many different cuisines around the world. You can even work it into, if you choose a nice light olive oil, it works into Asian cuisines, it can work into Southeast Asian cuisines. Many of your European cuisines, you can find an olive oil that's going to enhance the flavor profile. Okay, so if you want to do us the honors,
Okay.
put it on the sheet pan. So we're going to go in the middle rack. We are now starting on our Spanish appetizer. Very simple, beautiful piece of bread. So we have a European style whole wheat piece of bread. Sometimes they grill it, sometimes it's just a slice of bread. I like having the sliced bread. One of the nice tricks on this in particular is having a thick piece of bread so you get the crust on the outside and it's still soft on the inside. From a practicality standpoint, when we put the garlic and the tomato on it, if your bread's too thin, it falls apart. But since we're going to be toasting this as well, it's nice and crispy on the outside and gets warm and stays soft on the inside. Just like I choose a certain red wine to go with this dish, I can choose a certain olive oil to prepare this dish. So what we do is we start off with a nice piece of bread, fresh garlic. We cut it in half. All we really do is you just take the garlic and rub it on your bread. So we're going to cut the tomato in half. Then we just take the tomato and you do the same thing. Just squeeze a little bit. The idea is just to get some of the seed in the pulp. A little Mediterranean sea salt. We're just going to take a little bit, sprinkle that. This is our olive oil again, and it's just a little drizzle over the top. And this is really highlighting olive oil as a condiment. So this is really the key element of the dish, can be the flavor of the olive oil. Cheers.
Cheers. Those are wonderful.
So we're going to start with the ingredients that take the longest to cook. When I'm particularly cooking with olive oils, one of the things that we need to be aware of is how the flavors change as we're going through the oils. And as some olive oils or any oil starts getting hotter, we start approaching what's called the smoke point. So are you familiar with what smoke point is?
Is that when the smoke alarm goes off?
Close. Actually, I need to grab something. Hold on a second. So I had heard we have some challenges with our cooking.
Yes, we do.
So the maintenance department was nice enough to bring this for me just in case we have a problem. But fortunately no, smoke point isn't actually when the alarms are going off.
Okay.
As it implies, the smoke point on an oil is when the oil starts to smoke. And where there's smoke, there's fire.
Exactly.
And there aren't a lot of things in the kitchen that we like to eat that are burnt. What we look for is the oil, it looks like it starts to ripple in the pan, almost like a little wave. First thing, we always heat the pan first, because our enemies of oil, and olive oil in particular, are heat, light, salt, and water. What we want to do is make sure all of our ingredients are ready to go first.
Okay.
What we're going to start with is we're going to, in this dish for our ragu, for our stew, we have red pepper, onion, garlic. These are cannellini beans already cooked, our roasted squash, and so we're going to start with a little bit of the olive oil. Then we're going to add the onion, which we're just going to julienne, and we'll cut that. Nice julienne strips of the red pepper. We get a more consistent cut, so I just keep the knife down flat and we just trim. I got a Spanish yellow onion. And roll my knife a little bit and match the concentric circles. We're just going to take the flat end of the knife, just press on the garlic, and then we can peel the skin off. Press the skin off. We just press it the rest of the way. Just come across. So we're going to line all the leaves up. And we basically roll them up. I don't know. I guess like a giant cigar, kind of.
Really?
And we're going to cut them all at once. And we just want nice little ribbons. You can see the curls going out. That's as hot as we want. Then we're going to add our garlic. This is when I add my spice, almost in the Indian tradition of toasting your spice. And now we have just a little bit of smoked paprika oil with the olive oil. And then we're just continuing to build flavors as we go. There we go, 1, 2, 3. That is a little bit of sherry vinegar, so we have a little bit of acid to balance the flavors out. Since we had the sherry and the brandy mixture, instead of using a lemon juice or another type of vinegar, we're going to pair a sherry vinegar with the sherry that we added to the dish. And these are the cannellini beans. And since they're already cooked, because we have some pretty rich flavors in here, this is just going to help cut the richness a little bit. Just got a little bit of beautiful caramelization going on the onions.
Look at that, a work of art.
Taste it how it is first.
Okay.
And then let's put the olive oil on it and taste it with the olive oil and see how the flavor of the dish changes. Because we know it's going to be better with the olive oil.
Yes, we do. It's so wonderful. There we go.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's so wonderful. It's a truly healthy oil.
It's great. And again, for me, it tastes so good. And it could be really healthy, but if it didn't taste good, people wouldn't want to use it. And the more people learn about the different flavors that olive oil has, and they find the flavor that goes with the dish they're cooking, I think people will start using it even more and more.
The moment we've all been waiting for, dessert. I admit, when I think of olive oil, I don't usually think of dessert, so I am excited to taste this cake.
It's wonderful. On behalf of everyone here on Hitting the Road, we'd just like to say thanks from all of us.
I'm hitting the road again. Got adventure crawling under my skin. Going places that I've never been. I'm hitting the road. I'm hitting the road again. Gonna take along all of my friends. Living life like there's just no end. I'm hitting the road. Feeling better since I don't know when. I'm hitting the road.
So are there foods that go better with olive oil? And if so, which ones are there? And which ones should we stay away from?
So it's an interesting question because in front of us we have our pistachio olive oil cake, which a lot of people would just think, okay, olive oil and dessert, that's not a fit. And so when we start talking about are there foods that olive oil does not go with, we just need to come back and think about olive oil as a flavor, as a normal ingredient, as opposed to just necessarily thinking about it as olive oil. So it would make sense for most people that if you're in an olive producing region, there's a lot of cuisine that flavor is going to match. On the opposite side, there could be a cultural flavor, a lot of your Asian influenced cuisines. That there's no tradition of olive, but there are other fruit oil based flavors in those cuisines as well. one of the examples for like sort of flavor boundaries is if I took cilantro and chili and fish and asked somebody to try to tell me where those flavor combination, we could even toss coconut in there. Am I doing Mexican regional? Am I doing Southeast Asian? You don't know until I add a couple other flavors. So can we successfully work olive oil into other cuisines? It's really just understanding how this flavor fits into that profile.